As I mentioned earlier, we're not going to ignore the fact that there's high-grade gold and there's also potential for some serious high-grade copper. We have over 6 kilometers of corridors that feel that we really need to go test. And so to have good results like this coming back just shows immediately Curabaya continues to need to be drilled out. We have plus kilo silver, as you know, results all over Curabaya. Given this silver market, this is a project that would be acquired in a heartbeat from any new company that wants to get into silver exploration. Please direct anyone to tier1silver.com. Please sign up for our newsletter. We're happy to respond. I try my very best to respond to any incoming investor query.
Today we're having a chat with Peter Dembicki, the CEO of Tier 1 Silver. Peter, it's great to have you on the channel again. Just this morning you released some very exciting initial drill results. So why don't we just dive right into the discussion and you take us along for those exciting results.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's great to be back, especially with results like this. This is something that shareholders and management and everyone has been waiting for a long time, for us to go back to drilling at Curabaya. And after all this time, finally to be able to come back with some good results, great results, is fantastic. And really, the results are mostly led to our technical team and to the geology. It just shows what this property has and what it can offer for future drilling programs.
Definitely, and perhaps you can just shortly take us along. Really, what type of grades have you been finding intercepts wise?
Yeah, so much similar to our first phase of drilling. We have plus kilo silver, as you know, results all over Curabaya. Our focus in the second round of drilling, or this phase 2, was to go up to this Kambaya corridor. We have 2 corridors out there that we want to test. Again, it was with the higher elevation, the less erosion. We wanted to go see if those grades were again present up in those higher elevated areas, and to come back with that thesis verified, having plus kilo intercepts again of silver, but also really interestingly, we can't push aside the high grade gold that we've been getting along with it. So really, it just shows how robust this project is. And as a reminder for your viewers and people that have been following the story, we have over 6 kilometers of corridors that feel that we really need to go test. And so to have good results like this coming back just shows immediately Curabaya continues to need to be drilled out. We still have some results pending from the program, another 4 holes to come out that we have not released. So as soon as we get those back, we'll have those released to the market and then kind of share our direction. Because once we get all the results back, we can kind of form our next direction as to where we want to go, where we want to target, what we want to retarget. But a lot of signs are pointing towards the second Kambaya corridor, where, again, we had a lot of really positive results, plus kilo high-grade gold results in our channel sampling and rock sampling campaigns. So, yeah, really good place to be in a favorable silver market, as silver is, threatening to break through that $80 barrier again. But as we know, with timing and calling the price of silver and the markets, we just don't know where that's going to be. But anywhere in this area is favorable silver background for a silver exploration company.
Yeah, and you started outlining that as well. Of course, the gold in your intercepts here, we have 0.7 meters at over a kilogram a ton silver, but as well 4.5 grams a ton gold. That's quite a nice byproduct to have. Actually, for that intercept, probably the gold is more valuable than the silver.
Yeah, it sure is. And when we were going over the results with our technical team and our directors, most notably Antonio Arribas, who is an expert in these types of systems, can't ignore that gold whatsoever. It just shows the grade on this property, how much it has to offer. Now I know the market might be looking for a much wider intercept in terms of the veins, but once you're familiar with these types of systems and you know that these are highly still economical grades, especially where the price of silver and gold are today, these are fantastic results. They're very, very strong. And we'll continue to search for, the source, the oven. Where is this precious metals being cooked up and originating from? And we only get that with more drilling. So along the way, while we encounter plus kilo silver and high grade gold, it's just showing the strength of this system and the strength of this project that absolutely deserves to be to be continued to drilled out.
Yeah, and like you started outlining, the nature of a resource like this oftentimes is relatively small veins, but a high density of them. So in a mining scenario, could be hugely economic still. And while these veins might be modest, they're very close to surface as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is within 100 meters, 150 meters from all of our drilling from surface. So it just shows how easily accessible this grade is. So we'll continue to keep doing work on our property to source our next targets. But again, finding that continuity between these corridors is key. It's a little bit short of calling it a discovery. We call it a discovery hole, something that kind of puts us on the map. But in geological terms, a discovery is something when you find that deposit. And we still feel like we have that ahead of us to find that source of where this high grade, extreme high grade is coming from. So it's really exciting because it's a great environment to be drilling in. It's a great project to be drilling. The community is on board. Permitting has been, really favorable for us, and it continues to be a great project for us. So it's a great first step after a number of years for us to get back on the board, and what a great way to do it.
Yeah, and of course these veins pinch and swell and they move around. What's quite impressive actually, you hit 3 out of 4 holes, which is quite a solid rate. And what did you say earlier? You have 4 more holes that we're waiting for the asset results on?
Yeah, we did eight holes in this small phase of drilling. So we have 4 more holes waiting to come back from the lab. So once we get those results turned around and interpreted, we'll bring them right back to the market. So it's an exciting time for us as we anticipate it, and then see the direction it kind of wants to push us in, where to go. But we know that we have our eyes set on this Kambaya 2 corridor further to the northeast of our property, where we've returned a lot of great grades from early testing. And again, 6 kilometers of vein corridors to go after. It's a really cool project to have. And then, of course, what drove a lot of internal discussion with our group is, again, poking up in discussions again is the copper results that we've been getting from our property as well. And so copper, I think, is going to have a extremely strong year, or for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. So we can't ignore that. Anytime you have 4 or 6% plus copper samples, it just shows that there's something happening here at this project that is producing this precious metals. It's producing these copper results. So let's see what testing we can do. We've only explored a small fraction of this property that's under drilling permitted, but we have a whole area, thousands of hectares to our west, to go test, where we've picked up a lot of copper results as well. So all the focus will be on the Kambaya 2 corridor for our next drilling campaign, if not retargeting some of the earlier results in Kambaya 1 and Sambale. And then other than that, we expect to be sending out some exploration teams to head out west on our property to see if we can uncover some more direction with these extreme high-grade copper numbers as well.
Yeah, Peter, perhaps you could take a moment and try to paint a picture of the scale that you now have already proven in this project with these multiple corridors. Are there any peers we can compare to on a size perspective?
There's some producing mines that belong to majors that are producing silver in grades that are even 0.3, 0.4 meters. They're smaller in width, but the grade is very, very similar. Now, if you recall, and some of your silver investors recall, some of the earlier results that we saw coming out of Vizsla Silver, very similar to what we're achieving right here. Kudos to them. They had the capital and the resources to continue just to drill and drill and drill, to finally get to that kind of source and deposit, so to speak, to really progress that project. We're just at the early days of that same kind of setup as Vizsla in Mexico. But there are Peruvian producers that are producing much lower widths with high grade, similar to us. And the fact that, as you mentioned, so close to surface really makes it accessible and more economic to go after. So I think with the price of silver that we feel is going to continue to strengthen, it will only increase the attraction to this type of a system. And whether that's a near-term producer looking at easy accessible silver and gold on surface with the potential for copper nearby, it's an attractive one project. And I constantly get reminded by my chairman Ivan Bebic, who's been with this project with me along the way since 2021, and even prior to that, prior to the spinout of the parent company. If anyone were to have this project on the market to sell, any new fresh faces to look at this project, they would see these grades, they would see the veins, they would see the potential, the 6 kilometers of corridor, the fact that we've only explored a fraction of our entire property. This thing would be scooped up in a heartbeat. But given the loyalty and the patience of our investors and ourselves have been here, we've been staring at the same screen for 5 years and wondering, okay, like let's get it going, let's get going next. So it's nothing fresh for us, but given this silver market, this is a project that would be acquired in a heartbeat from any new company that wants to get into silver exploration. So we keep reminding ourselves that this is extreme high grade. This is exciting, and it's something worth drilling out 100%.
The permitting, you've also released a expanded permitting that you're advancing. Could you take us through the rationale there?
Yeah, just to constantly be expanding our area that we can go after. Again, it expands the amount of holes that we're able to drill. It just gives us that kind of flexibility. It's not that we'll be drilling 220 holes in our next campaign. That would be a dream of mine, obviously, and to expedite everything. But the more flexibility it gives us to go after these silver targets, we're going to take it and constantly be working with the government to get that done. So, a lot of kudos to my team on the ground, Christian Rios, based in Peru, who heads that up. He's done a fantastic job of getting all permits to date with little or no delays. And it's a great place to operate.
Definitely. And also in the release, of course, were some channel samples that are even closer to surface. And here we have, for example, 0.6 meters at 756 grams a ton silver, 0.35 grams a ton gold. That is also very interesting on a potential mining scenario.
It's consistent, which is what we love to see. And it's been consistent since day one, since we got to this property where we see this high grade. We have grades ranging from, notable grades that are, high grade, 250 grams plus silver, up to, as multi-kilo channel samples, 12 kilos in some points, over half a meter or a meter. So it's just, it constantly refreshes and reminds us that we're dealing with grade first. And I believe I've stated on your show multiple times before is we are an early stage exploration company that is starting with extreme grade. All we need to do is continue to drill this out and to prove this out to create that volume and the deposit. And it's a fantastic place to start. So it's up to us to execute on, because it's a starting point that any junior would only dream of having. So again, the channel samples are proving that these grades exist on or near surface. As you mentioned before, these veins can pinch, they can swell, they can cut left, cut right. Mother Nature doesn't always work is conformed, so we have to roll with the punches and continue to drill. And that's the plan.
Definitely, but also the horizontal scale that you're now already showing with these different intercepts. Of course, the one from your phase 1 campaign, more down the hill, phase 2 more up on the hill. I believe you outlined earlier 6 kilometer of corridors that you found. That is quite the substantial project already.
Yeah, it seems to be, and I think everyone's just waiting for us to continue to test. We have a lot of work ahead of us, a lot of targets to go after. We feel like we need, another 50 holes or so to really charge towards that kind of first resource, in order to make it impactful. But yeah, it's an attractive project. And again, we're just going to keep moving ahead with the drilling.
So how are you thinking about the next few months, 2 years, about walking that path of getting those 50 drill holes in to get a potential maiden resource going? How are you visualizing that path forward for Tier 1 Silver?
It's just a continuation of drilling, getting results, showing the results to the market, refinancing on the back of positive results, and showing people that, this isn't a one-off thing. It's not something that we encountered over one or two holes. It's consistent, and continuously prove this out. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we're not going to ignore the fact that there's high grade gold and there's also potential for some serious high grade copper. If we were to zoom out and again show the audience where this project is located, we are in the heart of the copper giants of South America. Cerro Verde, Quellaveco, Tocopalas, Cajone, just to our northwest, up along the coast. And then they start up in northern Chile down to our southeast. And so we know that we have something there. We just need to really hone in on the target and figure out the source of that copper, and to see the depth and the scale and the strength. And while we do that, we continuously drill out the silver on surface and see what we can make of it.
So how should we think about timelines going forward? Of course, you have assay results coming out from the second half of your phase 2 results. You're going to have to interpret that, put it into a potential phase 3 drilling campaign. How should we think about that, sequencing over the next few months to years?
Yeah, I never want to give out dates as far as when we're going to get results back, because there's always delays and expectations set. But the moment we get our remaining holes back in, we'll formulate the data, combine them with our previous holes to determine where we go next. And again, I said we're quite biased. We have a favorable outlook for the Cambaya 2 quarter, which is furthest to our northeast on the map. But we also want to send out some exploration teams to go test out the west side of our project for not only copper, but other precious metals as well, because we did come across plus kilo silver, very high grade gold, and with the high percentage of copper as well. So there's so many areas to go test out in this. We've only just really done some high level testing at this point. So we want to go after that. And so we anticipate it's going to be a busy summer as we work towards putting together our next drill campaign, how we'll finance that, how many holes we'll anticipate going after, as well as the testing on the west part of our project.
Excellent. Well, plenty of catalyst ahead then. Perhaps we can quickly touch base on the finances, how they're roughly looking like currently.
Yeah, right now we're in a comfortable position, nothing immediate to go finance, which gives us some time to breathe after this drill program, analyze the results. But yeah, we're a junior exploration company, so we're in a constant state of financing. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're probably not telling the truth. We don't produce revenues. We don't have any income. So we're constantly looking for that next capital. So, it's my job to get the share price at a higher level, so it becomes less dilutive to the company. But we have a lot of very smart people that are very excited about the project and want to help keep financing this going forward, because I see the potential here. So it makes my job challenging one to constantly capitalize the company and keep everybody in good standing. But it's one that I enjoy, and a project like this only helps when I can walk into any boardroom around the world and present plus kilo silver and gold, and the potential for a massive copper discovery as well. So it's an exciting and fun job.
Definitely, and that balancing act of cost of capital versus the want from a geological perspective to just put 100 drill holes in this and prove it out. It's a tough balancing act.
Geologists, I love them, but there's no limit to the money they would love to spend, and we just have to constantly have that balancing act and keep the reins on to make sure that the costs don't go crazy. But again, you get reminded all the time. Even if you're the company that comes across this project and kind of opens the door, you're not the one at the end of the day that eventually mines it. Someone else could to take it up a decade later and make that discovery. This is how these junior programs work. So it's our intent to be with this right to the end. And it's going to take a lot more holes for us to decide whether we walk away from this project or not. But at this rate, there's no chance.
Excellent. Well, Peter, thank you so much for the exciting updates. Is there anything that we might have missed on the Tier 1 Silver story, as well as please remind us how people can reach out to the company and subscribe to the newsletter?
Yeah, please direct anyone to tier1silver.com. Please sign up for our newsletter. We're happy to respond. I try my very best to respond to any incoming investor query or question personally. And have a phone call. Love talking to everyone about the project. So please reach out, and we'll try and get back to everyone. Again, stay tuned for more results to come to the market over the following few weeks, I hope. And it's an exciting time for tier one, the silver, the gold, potential for copper. And again, we never stop exploring, and we never stop pushing this forward. So it's a great time.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Peter.